Hello everyone, good morning. And in today's session, we'll discuss about how to create users in Jenkins, what are the different triggering options available, how to take backup of Jenkins server, and how to create master and slave architecture. Okay, so let me share my screen. Guys, can you see my screen?
Yes.
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 Okay. Okay, so what we have did in previous session, we have set up Jenkins and we were able to execute some basic jobs, right? So in today's session, we'll try to create different users. So the current user what we are using is admin user, means admin user is having the complete access, means he can create the job, he can delete the job, he can modify the job, he can trigger the job, whatever he wants, he can do. For example, let me create one job. So if I'll click on new item and this will be my job title. Currently I'm using freestyle project. Click on OK. And then first job, scroll down. I'm using build steps. Okay. So I'm just trying to add one sample message and I'm using sleep 10, means this is holding for 10 seconds. Let me click on save. So now this job is being accessible to all the users. See, I mean currently we have only one user, that is admin, and this admin user has all the privileges. Means for example, he was able to create the job. If he wants to delete this project, he can do this. If he want to build the job, he can do this. If he want to update the configurations of the existing job, then also this is accessible. But I don't want all the users to have same level of privileges. Means if suppose there are 10 members in our team, all the 10 members should not have the access to create and delete. They should have the access only to build our job. Understood? Similar to our IAM, means we don't want to have the complete access, right? So we want to provide specific access to specific users. For example, we have development team and I don't want developers to create pipelines. So in that case, what I will do, I'll just provide them the read access to my Jenkins. If suppose we have operations guy, so he is responsible to create CI/CD pipelines. So he should have the access to modify the job and create new jobs for us. That's how we can control the different level of access. And in order to control the access, what we can do, just go to the dashboard, go to manage Jenkins. In manage Jenkins, we have something called, let me go to system. No, not this one. I guess we should go to the security. Okay, here we have something called security and users. So first what I will do, I will try to create one user. Okay, so go to users, click on create user, username, for example, techie, password, let me provide one password, full name and email ID. So the passwords are not right. Okay. Email ID, where is my email ID? This is my email ID. So let me add this email ID. Click on create user. So now what happened? We were able to create one user. So now let me just copy this URL, open in incognito. Try to log in. Okay, username is, password is admin. Now here if you see this, even this techie user got all the access, means he is able to read all those jobs which are available in our Jenkins. If I'll click this job, he is able to delete the project, click on build, as well as update the configurations. Now I want to restrict the access to this user, means to this techie user, he should not be able to see these options, delete object or configure objects. He should only click on build now. That's how I want to control. So for that purpose, what we can do, go to your Jenkins again and click on dashboard, go to manage Jenkins and go to your security. Okay, here we have the option for the authentication. Here if you see this, the current authentication or the default authentication we are using is Jenkins own user database, means whatever users we are trying to create are being stored in the Jenkins database. Okay, if you want to configure with the third party authentications, okay, we can also use these options. And here in this Jenkins server, if you'll see the default location, right? cd var lib jenkins ls cd users. Okay, in this users, you can see this. This is the techie user what I have created, means all the users whatever we are creating, even that is being stored under var lib jenkins only, because this is the default location of Jenkins. Okay, so now what I will do, I want to restrict the access. Okay, so what I will do is, here we have something called authorization, means we have two things, one is authentication and one is authorization. This is very important, guys. Authentication and authorization. Now what is the difference between both of them? What is the difference between authentication and authorization? Anyone?
Authentication is for authorization is for providing accesses. Expect
Authentication is for,
logging.
right. So authentication is for login, means any user who has a credential, he can log in. Authorization is something which will try to check the level of access. Okay, authentication, any user who has user ID and password will be able to log in, and authorization is something related to the permission, the set of level of access what we have provided. Okay, so this is very commonly heard in Kubernetes as well, so try to remember this point. So we should go to authorizations, and here you can see this logged in users can do anything. So this is our default configuration. Now I don't want to use this default configuration. Here we have something called project based matrix authorization strategy. So this is one of the strategy, and this has been available because of the plugin what we have installed in the setup of Jenkins. Okay, so if I'll select this, here you can see it has popped up some different pages. Okay, now I want to use this strategy. In this strategy, we have different level of access. See, overall access, the credentials, the agents, job, run, view, and source code management. Now I want to add my user. So add user. So what's our username? Techie. Click on OK. Then it will try to capture the username. For example, I'm trying to add one user called Horizon, which is not available. This user is not available in our Jenkins, right? So what will happen? If I'll click on OK, then see this is something. I mean, this is how it will try to provide. User is not available. Okay, so it will validate the username, and then here what type of access you want to provide to this user. So overall access, I want to provide read access. Here we have this block read, so I will enable this. If you want to provide create access, then you can enable this. If you want to provide administrator access, then you can enable this. Okay, so I want overall to be read, and in jobs, so what he should be accessible means build option should be available. I will click this. Configuration means update. I don't want to provide this access. He should not be able to delete this. He should not be able to create this. Okay, and also here we have view access, read access. So let me click on save. Means this techie user has very limited access. Click on save. Now, if I'll open this incognito and if I'll try to refresh this page, let us see what will happen. See, this user don't have any access. Now, can you see this? People build history, my views. Only limited access has been provided to this user. And this user is not even able to see the jobs because of the configurations what I have did. So let me modify this security. Build read, right? So he should be able to read the jobs. Click on save. Okay. Now let me try to refresh this page again. See, now he is able to see this job. So if I click here, he can only click on build now, means he is not able to delete or update the configurations. Okay, so this is how we can restrict the access to the different users. Understood?
Yes.
Yes. Now, for example, there is one scenario. Okay, so let me click on new item. Again, job freestyle. Okay, build steps. I'm just adding some sample commands. Sleep 30. Okay. Let me refresh. He is able to see both the jobs, right? Because of the read access what we have created to the user. Now my requirement is, let me modify the configurations again. So let me go to manage Jenkins. Let me go to security. Let me remove this read option, means I don't want this user to view all the jobs. Okay, this user, techie user, should not be able to view the jobs. Okay, let me click on save. Now if I go to this user and refresh this page, he is not able to access any job. See, no jobs are visible to this user. So my requirement is to provide access to a specific job. I don't want him to see all the jobs as well. He should only able to see the jobs on which he is working, which are relevant to his profile. So in this case, how can we control them? If I provide the read access, if there are two jobs, then he is able to view all the two jobs. My requirement is out of the two, only second job should be visible. First job should not be visible. This is how we control the production pipelines, means our production jobs are not visible to everyone, that are restricted to specific users only. So in order to do that, what we can do is go to your Jenkins job, go to dashboard, second job, configuration. Okay, here we have something called enable project based security. If I'll open this, here also you can try to provide the access, means at the job level also we can provide the access to which user. Let me add. This is how we used to do for the production pipelines. Okay, so techie user should be able to read this job. Select. save. Okay, now let me try to refresh. See, only second job is visible. Understood? So we have two different level of controls. One is on the Jenkins dashboard and one is at the job level. So wherever you want to restrict the access, you can restrict. Clear?
Yes.
So now even if I'll create 100 jobs, techie user will only be able to see limited jobs. Even if you have 100 jobs, as of now, currently we have provided access only to one job. Okay. So now let me go back to my admin user. Second job, and this is first job, right? So let me go to first job. Let me update the configurations. Let me remove this 10 seconds buffer. Let me remove this. Click on save. Okay, let me click on build now. First job is built successful. Let me click on build now again. Second job is done. Third job is done. Fourth is done. Fifth is done. Sixth is done. Seventh is done. Okay, so now what is happening? Whenever we are trying to trigger our job, this is trying to capture all the logs. Yes or no? Means currently this job has been executed 7 times. Yes or no?
Yes.
So my requirement is I don't want to store all the builds logs. Means I don't want to store all the logs of 7 jobs. So what will happen? It is trying to consume some space in my machine. I don't want to store all the logs of my previous build. I want to store only last 5 logs or last 3 builds logs. So in that case, just go to the configuration. We have something called discard old builds. This strategy we call as log rotation, days to keep build or max number of builds to be kept. Okay, so I am using 3. Click on save. And now if I'll try to rerun my job for first time, build now, and if I'll refresh this, see only 3 builds are available. Build number 5 is not available. So what is happening? It is trying to only store the top 3 to 5 builds. Clear? So this is how we can control the number of builds to be saved or number of builds that to be shown on our dashboards. Okay, that this is something. And then we have something called, if I'll go to the configuration, okay, we have something called build triggers. Okay, so what do you mean by different build triggers? Any idea what is build trigger?
When we have done with build, we need to like email.
No, no, no. That's something what we call as post build actions. Okay, build triggers options are available. Means how your build should be triggered. So one way is to go to your console, go to your job and click on build now. Means this is manual intervention. Whenever you want to execute your job, you are coming here and you are clicking on build now. This is manually done. And say, I mean, for example, you don't want to trigger it manually. You don't want to trigger it manually. Then you can go for build triggering options. Okay. So here we have 5 different options. And very important, option what we can see is we have something called GitHub hook trigger for Git SCM holding. So what do you mean by this? When should I use this? For example, okay, so in source code management, let me add one repository, hiring app. Okay, let me clone this, copy this, and this is my repository URL. Here we are able to see one error. Why?
Git is not connected in.
Yes, because Git is not installed in my Jenkins server. If you see Git -- version, then Git is not installed. My -y installed Git. Let me install Git. Okay, Git is available now. Now if I'll refresh or let me cut and paste again, this error is not available. So what I'm trying to do is we have the source code which is available in this repository in GitHub, which should be triggered from the branch called main branch. Means the code should be taken from the main branch, this branch. We have only one branch. Okay, so main branch, and then we have build trigger options. So my requirement is whenever there is a change in the code, means whenever the developers has updated the code, whenever the developers has updated the code, my pipeline should automatically get triggered. I will not come to my Jenkins dashboard, login and click on build now option. I don't want to click on here. Okay, my Jenkins job should automatically get triggered. For that purpose, we can use build triggers. Okay, in this option we have something called webhooks, which is very popular. So what is the use of webhook? Whenever there is a change in code, then Jenkins will be notified and the job will be triggered without any manual intervention. Okay, so one option, what do we have? We have webhooks. So how to configure webhooks? First, you need to go to the repository, GitHub repository. So this is my repository. Go to settings. And here we have something called webhooks. See, if I'll click on webhooks, then it is asking us to provide one webhook. Okay, so I'll click on add webhook. It is asking for the authentication. Let me authenticate it. Three seven three three two nine. Okay, authentication is done. Now it is asking for payload URL. So what is our payload URL? Means to which URL it should be triggered. So in our case, what is our payload URL? Our payload URL is our Jenkins server, right? So let me copy this, go to my payload URL, paste the URL, and then add the extension or path prefix. So we have the path prefix. Okay, so we need to add this to our URL. Okay, so let me copy this and let me paste it. Okay, so this is my Jenkins URL, and this is the path prefix what we are trying to use for our payload URL. And then here we have what kind of event means I want to trigger my job whenever there is a change, means for any action my pipeline should be triggered. Okay, and click on add webhook. Once you are done, so what Jenkins will do, what our GitHub will do, it will try to send one test event, means in order to validate this, it is just trying to do one testing. Once the testing is completed, here you can see one green option has been enabled. Okay, so if I'll refresh this page, now see green option is enabled, means it was able to successfully connect to my Jenkins URL. Okay, so my webhooks has been configured. Now go to Jenkins and enable this option, means whenever there is a change in the webhook, I mean the event is triggered, then please trigger my job. For that purpose we need to enable this option. If you are not enabling this option, then your Jenkins will not trigger your pipeline. Okay, so once this is done, let me click on save. Okay, now here if you see this first job, how many builds we have, current build number is 8. Okay, now let me go to my GitHub repository. Let me just make one change, means let me just try to update one commit. Okay, so any file is okay. So in my case, I'm opening readme. Okay, here I'm just trying to add one basic change. It is something which is not reflecting on my application as well. Only for testing purpose, I'm just making one update, clicking on commit. So once I have updated my GitHub repository, you can see my pipeline will get triggered now. See, build number 9. If I'll open this console output, you can see started by GitHub push by beta wins, means this job is been triggered by our webhooks. So without any manual intervention, you can trigger your jobs. So whenever there is a change, it will automatically trigger. Let me again go to the configurations. Let me hold this job for at least 10 seconds or 30 seconds, 20 seconds. Click on save. Now let me again go to my GitHub. Let me update my code. Let me remove this dot. Click on commit changes. Once the changes has been committed, now you can see this. See, first job is in queue. This has been getting triggered automatically. This is how we can configure our pipelines, which can be triggered automatically whenever there is a change in the code. This option can be enabled with the help of webhooks. So to which particular environment we are going to use webhooks? Are we going to use webhooks for production?
No.
Then
Testing part.
only for development purpose, I mean only for development environment, I am going to enable my webhooks. The reason is I don't want the production changes to be triggered automatically, means for every change I don't want my production servers to be updated, no, right? So webhooks is only used for development activities. Even if they have asked in interviews, this will be asked in interviews. Okay, so even if they are asking about webhooks, then try to answer that yeah, we do have used webhooks and that was used for the development pipelines. How to configure? Go to go to GitHub repository, go to settings, click on webhooks, add the payload URL, add what kind of trigger event should be triggered, and then in Jenkins job we should enable the option called GitHub SCM polling, and we are done. Okay, Now let me remove this option. Let us focus on another build trigger option. So let me disable this. I don't want this to be happen. And also let me go to settings. Let me delete my webhooks as well. I want to delete my webhook. Okay, so no webhooks are configured now, means there is no automatic triggering. Now we have something called poll SCM. If I enable this and if I click on this particular option here, you can see minute, hour, date of month, date of week, day of week. What is this option? We have something called poll SCM. Poll SCM is similar to our cron job, means it will work based upon the conditions. So here what I have did 5 stars means poll SCM is similar to our cron job. Means I am trying to define that my pipeline should be triggered for every minute, every hour, every day of month, every day of week. Means for every 1 minute my pipeline should be triggered. And click on save. So let us see what will happen. Last build number was 10. We'll wait for 1 more minute. Okay. So poll SCM option is similar to our cron jobs, where we can decide based upon the timing. Means for example, there is one backup script. This script should be executed or triggered at 12 o'clock every day. Then you cannot log into your Jenkins server, select this job and click on build now, right? In that case, what you will do? You will try to add poll SCM. So poll SCM, what it will do? It will trigger your pipeline at the specific period of time. Okay. Now if I refresh this, nothing is happening. I have enabled this option, configuration, but still build triggers, still nothing is happening. Means for every 1 minute my job should be triggered. Here if you see the status of job, last build is 10 only. Even if I refresh, the last build is 10, means nothing is happening. This is not working. Why this is not working? Okay, let me ignore this for now. Okay, so let me just remove this. Let me remove this option. Then we have something called build periodical. If I click this, here also it is asking for schedule. Means see, same cron job. So let me add the changes. Okay, so in build periodical, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to add my cron job. Means I'm asking or I'm telling my Jenkins to trigger this job for every 1 minute. Same option we have enabled for poll SCM as well, right? Same option we have enabled for poll SCM, but poll SCM was not working. So let us check this option. Click on save. We'll wait for 1 minute. We'll wait for 1 minute and see what we can do.
Generally in projects, in which one will be working?
That will be manual only. See now what happened after 1 minute? Our job is getting triggered for build periodical. But for poll SCM, it was not getting triggered. Right? For build periodical, after 1 minute my job has been triggered automatically. Means if suppose you want to trigger your job every day at 12 o'clock, then you can enable this option build periodical. But whereas Polysem, this was not working. Why? Means Polysem, it will trigger based upon the timing. Okay, let me remove this. Let me again go to Polysem and add 5 stars. So Polysem, what it will do, it will trigger for every 1 minute, but here it will always check for any updates in the repository. Means if there is any update, let me save this. Okay, so Polysem, what it is doing, before triggering, it will go and check your repository. Means it will go and check your repository. If there is any change in this repo, then only this will be triggered, or else it will ignore. Means Polysem will work only if there is any update, or else it will not trigger even if you wait for 10 days or 1 year or 10 years or 100 years. It will only trigger whenever there is an update. Means if suppose anyone has updated your code, let me add one change. Okay, I'm trying to just add one commit. So now what is happening, for every 1 minute Polysem will come here and it will monitor this repository. In this repository, okay, one update has been done just now. Now Polysem will trigger the job. Just wait for 1 minute. Okay, for every minute it is coming and checking the job and it is going back. If there is a change, it will trigger, or else it will ignore. But whereas build periodical, whether there is a change or there is no change, it will execute at that specific period of time. It will not wait or it will not check for anything. It will just check for the timing. Okay, time is done, then trigger the job. Polysem, it is waiting and checking for the updates. If there are updates, then only it will be triggered, or else ignored. See, now build number 13 is in pending state. Means our Polysem is working. See, it is in queue. Within 1 or 2 seconds, this will be in the executed. See, build number 13 is getting executed. This will be asked in interviews for sure. What is the difference between Polysem and build periodical? Polysem and build periodical. Clear?
Yes, sure. Ready.
It will execute the job based on the timing. Polysem, it will execute the job based on the timing, but only if there are new updates in the repository. Okay, if there is no new update, then this is not getting executed. Build periodical, whether there is a change or there is no change, it will get triggered at the particular point of time. Clear? And then we have one
Yes.
more option. Okay, let me remove this as well. I don't want to use this. And then we have one more option. This is also important. Okay, build after other projects are built. Means my Jenkins job should look for other project. If that project is completed, then only this project should be executed. This can be used if we have dependencies. Means, for example, in our case, how many jobs do we have? We have two different jobs, first job and second job. Both the jobs are related to same application, for example. So if my first job has been successfully completed, then only my second job should be triggered. If my first job is not executed successfully, then there is no use of triggering second job. Okay, in this case, we can use that option. So we generally call them as downstream and upstream jobs. Okay, we generally call them as downstream and upstream jobs. Okay, so how many jobs do we have? Two jobs. So let us make the configurations. So in second job, what I'm trying to do is configuration. I am telling my second job to be triggered only if first job is executed successfully. See here it is popping the job name. Okay, so my second job should be triggered only if the first job is successfully completed. And on what basis it should be triggered? Triggered only if build is stable, trigger even if the build is unstable, even if the build fails, always trigger if even if the build is aborted. Means even if first job is getting failed, this should be triggered or not. This is what it is trying to ask. So I want my second job to be triggered only if my first job is successfully completed. Okay, scroll down and click on save. And if I'll go to dashboard, here you can see, let me refresh. Okay, let me trigger my first job. Okay, here you can see something called downstream job. Means first job is been, I mean second job is been dependent on first job. And if I'll go to my second job, right? So this is my first job and the downstream project for first job is second job. And if I am going to second job and the upstream project is first job. Okay, so who is dependent on which particular job? Okay, so let me just try to trigger my first job. Build now is build now. Okay, so this is getting triggered. So once this is completed, what will happen? It should execute or trigger my second job. That's how we can trigger multiple jobs without any manual intervention. Means if we have any dependencies, then we can enable these options. See now second job is in queue and this is automatically getting triggered. Why? Because of our upstream job. We have configured one upstream job that is called as first job to second job. Okay, second job will also be successfully get completed. Clear? If I'll go
Yes.
to console output, let me go to console output. Here she started by upstream project, first job build number 14. Okay, so that's how this is trying to trigger our jobs. Understood, right? Okay, and then we have the concept of master and slave architecture. This is very important. Means let me first open this first job, go to configurations. Okay, we have something called master and slave architecture. Okay, so why do we use master and slave architecture? What is the use of master and slave architecture?
For labeling purpose.
Only for labeling, we are not going to create any slave machines, right? Okay, so what is happening now? This is our current environment, means we have one Jenkins server. Jenkins server, and this server is called as master. In our case, means we have one main Jenkins server that is acting as master. There are no slave configurations, means we haven't attached any slave machines. Now what is happening here? If I am creating one job, first job, we have first job, we have second job, and even if suppose you want to create 10 more jobs, you are configuring the 10 jobs in the same master machine. If suppose you are trying to build any Java based project, so you will be installing Java in this master machine, right? So what we have did, we have installed Git in this master, we have installed Java. For example, one developer came and he wants to create one pipeline related to Python, means he want to set up one Python application CI/CD pipeline. So what he will do, he will set up Python dependencies. And again in future one more developer came, he wants to set up Node.js based application. So what he will do, he will set up Node.js dependencies. So what is happening here? For different applications, different programming languages, you need to set up the dependencies so that based upon these dependencies only your jobs are triggering. Okay, so if your master is been overloaded, what will happen? You will not be able to access your Jenkins server. Your Jenkins server might get slow. And if this is not accessible, then no jobs will be triggered. You cannot trigger these jobs, right? And the performance of your Jenkins server will also be very slow. So we are putting lot of burden on the master machine. So what I want to do is my master should be used only for controlling purpose, means master should be treated as a king. He should not do anything. He should just send one message to the slave machine. Okay, master should only order to the slave machine, and this slave machine should trigger the job. For example, we have Python. Okay, so we have Python based job. So where I am creating the Python based jobs here only. Okay, and then we have Java based job, we have Node.js based job. So all these three jobs are not going to be triggered in the same slave machine, means if anyone is trying to trigger Python based job, then my master should send one order to slave machine that trigger this Python based job. And where I'm going to set up all the dependencies, all the Python based dependencies I'm going to configure in the slave machine. I'm not going to set up anything in the master because slave machine is responsible to run my job. For example, we have one more slave that is related to my Java. Means this particular slave machine is used only to trigger my Java based jobs. So now what is happening? There are no operations executing on the master machine. The only thing master is doing is ordering the slave machines to trigger the job. How this is calling the slave machines? Based upon label. Labels, we have heard about labels in yesterday's session, right? It is calling with the help of labels and it is ordering to the slave machines. So with the help of this setup, what is happening? We have very high capacity, means earlier if suppose you were able to trigger only 3 jobs on the master, now we have at least 3 for slave 01, 3 for slave 02. No need to keep on increasing your master machine, so we can add one more slave and all the jobs can be triggered to the slave machine. Okay, so our master is only used to move the jobs or order our slave machines to trigger the jobs on the slave machines. Okay, clear? With the help of this setup, our Jenkins is highly available. If something is wrong with the slave machine, right, only these Python based jobs are not triggered. We have our Jenkins slave. Okay, So this kind of setup we called as Jenkins master and slave. You know how to set up our master and slave. Already we have our master server. Already we have our master server. The only setup what we need to do is slave 01 or slave 02. Means we should attach one slave machine. So how to do that? First we need to create or launch one EC2, right? So we have, if I'll go to my AWS console, we have only one, and let me try to rename this as Jenkins master. Now let me launch one more instance, F01, and this instance should only trigger Java based application. Java, Linux 2, T2 micro, backup server, security group default, and click on launch instance. Now what I have did, I have provision one more EC2 for my slave configuration. Means here if you'll see, we have only one build executor. We have only two build executor status. No node machines are configured. Okay, so let me first provision one slave machine. Let me click on connect, copy this, paste. Okay, so this is my slave server. I am switching to root user. Now what should I install on this slave machine? What are the prerequisites for the slave configuration? The only prerequisite for slave configuration is Java. No need to set up Jenkins because this is not master. We should only have Java, because in order to connect over Jenkins, and Jenkins is a Java based application, we should have Java as our prerequisite. So let me try to install Java. Okay, so here we have Java command. Let me copy, let me let me paste. The only thing what we need to is set up on the slave machine, we need to install Java. That's something what we need to do. And then we need to create one directory for workspace. Means where should our job should be stored. Means on master machine we have where lib Jenkins, right? On master we have, on this master machine all the jobs are saved in the master. cd where lib Jenkins workspace. In this particular location all the jobs are being saved in the master machine. Similarly in slave machine, where should we store all the jobs? For that purpose we can create one directory. Once this is installed, okay, I am creating one directory called my jobs. Okay, where I have created in the root location, and my directory name my job. Means all my slave jobs should be stored here. Means whatever my slave is triggering should be saved in this particular location, because here we don't have varlib Jenkins, right? We don't have varlib Jenkins. See, this is not available. So I have created one location, and this location should be used to store all my workspace related jobs. Clear? Now let me just try to ping fb.com. Let me open the document for configurations. Where is the document? Master and slave. Yes. Okay. So first what we need to do, log into slave machine, Switch to root user, install JDK. Now I should create one SSH keygen. Why? Because for the authentication purpose, my master and slave authentication can be done with the help of this SSH keygen, passwordless authentication. So let me create one SSH keygen on my slave machine. Okay, SSH-1 keygen. Okay, SSH keygen is created. All these steps I am trying to execute on the slave machine. Read this document if you got confused. Okay, and then let me try to capture this particular details. cd.ssh. Okay, authorized underscore keys, and then provide 700 permissions to this particular file. This process will be asked in interviews. How can we set up slave? So what we need to answer, we need to tell them that we need to provision one EC2, set up Java, create one workspace, and create one SSH keygen, and this SSH keygen should be copied to the master machine. Okay, here you can see setup steps to be done on master machine. Log into master machine, switch to root user, and then create one directory called .ssh. Where should we create? In var lib jenkins directory. Okay, this is my master. I am trying to create one directory. Once this directory is created, then switch to this directory. Okay, and then execute this command. We have one command, SSH key scan. Okay, so what this command will do, this command will search for the key from this particular host name or IP address and copy this key in the .ssh directory. Means this location. As of now, do we have anything here? No, right? So let me just modify this. Slave IP address. So what is our slave IP? My slave IP. Let me go to this Jenkins, sorry, my AWS. Let me copy this slave public IP. Copy and paste. Okay, so where should I trigger? I should execute on the master server. So once done, if I'll do LL, and then we have something called no nodes. This has been copied, means we were able to successfully copy the SSH keygen to my master machine. If you are unable to execute this command, then you can also manually do it. Cat and copy and paste, that's it. Okay, so now once this is done, let me again go back to the document. So we need to change the ownership, because if you'll observe one thing, okay, let me show you something. cd var Jenkins. If you'll see something here, you can see all the files. User is owner, as well as group is also, sorry, user is Jenkins, owner is Jenkins, as well as groups are also Jenkins. If you'll see this cat etc psswd, one user called Jenkins has been created when we have set up our Jenkins install. Whenever we have did the installation, right, one user called Jenkins has been created. Okay, so means whatever jobs we are triggering, that are being triggering with the user called Jenkins only. Means whenever we are triggering something or doing something here, that is being executed as a user called Jenkins. So always make sure, you might see some permission issues as well. Okay, so always remember one thing, that Jenkins will only use Jenkins as the username to trigger its jobs or whatever operations we are trying to do on the Jenkins server. This is not using EC2 or root user. This is using only Jenkins as the user. So that's the reason we should modify the owner as well. Means the owner for this particular file should be Jenkins, not root. Or else we might end up seeing permission issues. Okay, so let me copy this. Now if you'll see, this owner has been changed. Here I have given that description as well. Now let me update the changes, means chmod 700 command. Okay, done. Now we are good with the slave setup as well as master execution. Now the final thing what we need to do is, you need to go to Jenkins graphical user interface, means your console. Go here, go to manage Jenkins. Here we have something called node machines. Where is my node machine? Yeah, here we have something called node machines. Add, remove, control and monitor the various nodes that Jenkins runs jobs on. So if I click here, node machines, then we can see that there is one built-in node. This is nothing but our master. This is nothing but our master. Okay, so click on new node, and what should be the name of your node machine? Slave01 hyphen Java. This is something what I want to add. This is just only for our identification or understanding. Okay, then click on permanent agent, click on create. Okay, so once this is done, under launch, okay, once this is done, here we have number of executors. Why should I use number of executors? What is the reason behind this?
At a time,
Yeah, at a time how many jobs should be
jobs.
triggered? So I want to make it as 5, means I want 5 jobs to be triggered. Our earlier capacity was 2 in the master. Now we have 7. Overall 7 jobs can be triggered at a time. Okay, so remote root directory means where should I store my works jobs? It should be, I store all my jobs related data. Okay, that should be in the cd my jobs pwd. Okay, means at this particular location my Jenkins should store all the jobs. Okay, so this one, and then labels are very important, right? So how my job should be triggered means my master, how it should order, on what basis. If we have multiple slave machines, then how my master will identify which job should be run on which particular machine? That should be identified based upon the labels only. Labels are very important. So I am trying to provide the label as Java, means any job which is trying to execute with the label called Java should be executed on the slave machine. Okay, and then we have something called use this node as much as possible. In previous session also we have seen this. So I don't want to execute all the jobs. I want only the jobs with the specific labels which are matching. Means this is restricted. Only the jobs with Java as label should be executed on my slave machine, because all my Java related dependencies are already installed here. Okay, and then we have something called launch method, how my connectivity should be happening. So we will be using launch agents via SSH. Okay, and here it is asking for host is nothing but our IP address, means of our slave machine, IP address of my slave machine. So let me copy this IP. Okay, and then it is asking for credentials, means how should I connect? SSH username, and for credentials we don't have any credentials, right? So did we created any credentials? No. So here we have select user with private key, means go to your credentials, select user with private key, enter EC2 as the name and paste the PEM key, means which PEM key we were using for authentication, right? So let me go to the credentials. Here we have SSH username with private key, and our user name is nothing but EC2-user, and the ID I am trying to add as slave01 only for our understanding. Okay, private key enter directly, add, Now let me copy the PEM key. Let me copy the PEM key. Where is my PEM key? My PEM key is on desktop. Cat backup server. This is my PEM key what I have used for the authentications. So let me copy this PEM key. Copy and then paste. Make sure that you are not adding any spaces, okay, or else you might end up that your slave machine is not configured. And click on add. Okay, now you can see one credentials are being added, so EC2FN user, and then we have something called host key verification strategy. Means if you remember, we have executed this command, right? This one, key scan known host, means my authentication should be possible if there is one file called known host is available, similar to our health check. If this file is available, then it will try to authenticate based upon that particular file. Okay, and then we have something called availability. Keep this agent as much as possible, means whether any job is running or not running, this agent should be always available. Or else, if suppose I have scheduled one build periodical at 12 o'clock every day on the slave machine, means at every 12 o'clock this agent will be online. Other than that, it will be offline. Okay, so that's how we can control this as well. So, and then I don't want to have any of these properties. Click on save. Once you are done with this configuration, you can see one slave 01 Java is available and it is launching, and something went wrong and it has been offline. So let me open this node. Okay, this agent is offline because Jenkins failed to launch the agent process on it. Means something went wrong and our Jenkins was unable to add this to our machines. Okay, so how to know, I mean, now how can we fix this? By checking the logs, or else let me click on launch agent and let us see what is happening. Okay, let us see what is happening. Here if you see, no key algorithms disabled, authentication means yes, a connection will be allowed. So this went over there, known host key authentication has been done, authentication has been successfully done. Home user is this one, and then here, this is where it is facing issue. See here, if you'll find, if you, can you see this permission denied? What is happening is my Jenkins user is unable to access the root directories because root is, I mean, the admin, and Jenkins is our normal user, right? So Jenkins user is unable to access this. That's the reason it is not able to access the workspace, and this is getting failed. So what I can do? Let me change the location. Okay, I just wants to add this as my user. This is also a normal user, right? So my Jenkins will be able to access this particular location. Okay, home EC2 should be my base location to store all my workspaces. Let me update this. Go to my nodes, go to my slave 01 Java configurations, and let me make the change. Okay, issue was because of the root directory. Click on save and click on relaunch agent. Now here if you see, the agent is connected, it is online, means everything was able to successfully authenticate and our agent is connected and this is online. Now if you go to the dashboard, you can see slave 01 Java is available. So we were able to successfully add one agent. Now I want to trigger one job. First job, configurations. Okay, we have this git clone, right? We have this git clone. Okay, restrict where this project can be run. So enable this label expression Java. Okay, so click on save. Now what will happen? My first job will be triggered only on slave 01. So let me trigger this first job now, build now. Now if you'll see, my first job is been triggering only on slave 01. Something happened and the job has been completed. It has been failed. My job got failed. If you click on this console output, then you can see building remotely on slave 01 in workspace. Now the workspace is home, EC2F1 user, workspace, and then first job. Can anyone identify why this is getting failed now? Just check this error.
Git is not there.
Right, error cloning remote repo origin means whenever it is throwing something related to cloning and all, you can always go here and manually also check. So Git is not available, so it will not be able to clone. So how can we do this? -y install Git. This should be configured in my slave machine because my job is been getting cloned on the slave 01, not on the master. Earlier we were using master and it was working, but now we are trying to trigger on slave 01. Okay, so this is successfully done. Now let me rerun my job. Build now again. This time let us see what is happening. Build number 16. If I'll go to first job and if I'll go to the console output, always check console output, guys. Okay, sleep 20. This is successfully cloned. No, there is no error here. It is just executing sleep 20 means for 20 seconds it will wait the cursor. Once this is done, we have the downstream job, right? So downstream job is getting triggered. Where is this downstream job getting triggered? This is on master because we haven't configured any slave. Here we have restricted. Here there is no restriction. So it is executing on the master. Okay. Now, if I'll go to my slave machine, this is my slave machine, right? So we have something called workspace. These two has been created by Jenkins for the connectivity. ls, now you can see your first job here. If I'll do ls, now you can see all the files or the data is configured here. Where? In the slave 01. If you want to add one more slave for Python or for any other tool or any other application, then we can configure this. So what is happening with the help of slave master and slave architecture? Our Jenkins is highly available and we are trying to offload most of the work from master to slave machines. See, done. Clear? Any doubts?
I think we
Got
have to
confused. Sorry?
we have to rewatch the video from master and slave.
Yes, you should rewatch the video at least 2 times. Always read logs. I know that you guys will get failed when trying to launch node machines. You might end up seeing a lot of errors, but do not worry. Just check the console output. Okay, and then try to run the jobs. Okay. If we are good with this, then let me stop this session for today because I think this will be too much for you guys for today to execute. And then we'll again connect back tomorrow with our CI/CD pipeline. And also, guys, let me first stop this recording.